Question 1. The performance metrics show a candidate for the Alverno College entrance exam has a strong overall profile, but falls slightly below the established threshold in one specific, non-mathematical assessment area. Given the college's current enrollment goals, what is the most appropriate course of action according to Alverno College's entrance exam guidelines? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the candidate's entire application, considering all qualitative and quantitative aspects against the Alverno College entrance exam's stated criteria, and make a decision based on the holistic assessment within the established framework. Option B. Admit the candidate to meet enrollment targets, assuming their overall strong profile compensates for the minor deficiency in the specific assessment area. Option C. Reject the candidate immediately due to not meeting the specific assessment threshold, regardless of other strengths or enrollment needs. Option D. Seek external advice from other institutions on how they handle similar borderline cases to inform the decision. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the candidate's entire application, considering all qualitative and quantitative aspects against the Alverno College entrance exam's stated criteria, and make a decision based on the holistic assessment within the established framework. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing institutional goals with ethical considerations and adherence to Alverno College's specific entrance exam guidelines. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create a temptation to overlook or downplay potential issues with candidate qualifications, but the integrity of the admissions process and the academic standards of the college must be upheld. Careful judgment is required to ensure that decisions are fair, consistent, and compliant with Alverno's stated policies. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the candidate's application against all stated Alverno College entrance exam requirements, including any specific academic prerequisites or performance indicators outlined in their official admissions documentation. This approach is right because it prioritizes adherence to the established regulatory framework of the Alverno College entrance exam. It ensures that all candidates are evaluated on the same objective criteria, promoting fairness and maintaining the academic rigor expected by the institution. This aligns with the ethical principle of treating all applicants equitably and upholding the integrity of the admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize meeting enrollment targets by overlooking discrepancies in the candidate's performance metrics. This fails to adhere to the Alverno College entrance exam's regulatory framework, which mandates specific qualification standards for admission. Ethically, this approach is flawed as it creates an unfair advantage for one candidate over others who may have met all requirements. Another incorrect approach would be to make an exception based on a subjective feeling about the candidate's potential without a clear, documented basis within the Alverno College entrance exam guidelines. This introduces bias and undermines the transparency and consistency of the admissions process, violating the principle of objective evaluation. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and guidelines for the Alverno College entrance exam. This involves identifying all stated criteria and requirements. Next, they should objectively assess the candidate's application against these criteria. If discrepancies exist, the framework dictates seeking clarification or further information if permitted by the guidelines, or making a decision based strictly on the provided information and the established rules. The process should always prioritize fairness, consistency, and compliance with the specific Alverno College entrance exam framework. Question 2. Stakeholder feedback indicates that some applicants to Alverno College present with academic records that do not fully meet the standard GPA requirement, often due to documented extenuating circumstances. The Alverno College Admissions Committee is reviewing an application from a student with a GPA of 2.7, who has provided documentation of significant family health issues during their junior year of high school that impacted their academic performance. The committee must decide how to proceed with this application. Which of the following approaches best reflects Alverno College's commitment to student success and equitable admissions? Option A. Deny the application outright due to the GPA falling below the standard admission threshold, as maintaining consistent academic standards is paramount. Option B. Offer immediate full admission to the student to demonstrate compassion without further assessment of academic potential or support needs. Option C. Admit the student but require them to complete an additional semester of remedial coursework at another institution, before beginning their studies at Alverno. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire application, including essays and recommendations, and consider offering conditional admission with a clear plan for academic support services if the extenuating circumstances are deemed significant and the applicant demonstrates potential. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire application, including essays and recommendations, and consider offering conditional admission with a clear plan for academic support services if the extenuating circumstances are deemed significant and the applicant demonstrates potential. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate needs of a student with the established academic integrity policies of Alverno College. The admissions committee must consider the potential impact of granting an exception on the fairness of the admissions process for all applicants and the academic standards of the institution. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any decision is both compassionate and consistent with Alverno's mission and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the student's application, considering the extenuating circumstances presented, and evaluating them against Alverno College's stated admissions criteria and any relevant institutional policies on conditional admission or academic support. This approach is right because it prioritizes a holistic review, acknowledging that individual circumstances can impact academic performance. It aligns with Alverno's mission to support student success and its commitment to fair and equitable admissions. By seeking to understand the root cause of the academic gap and exploring potential support mechanisms, the committee demonstrates a commitment to student development, which is a core value for many higher education institutions. This process ensures that decisions are not arbitrary, but are grounded in a thoughtful assessment of the applicant's potential and the college's capacity to support them. An incorrect approach would be to immediately deny the application based solely on the GPA, without further investigation. This fails to acknowledge the potential impact of extenuating circumstances and overlooks Alverno's commitment to supporting diverse learners. It also risks alienating a potentially successful student who could thrive with appropriate support. Another incorrect approach would be to grant a full admission without any conditions or further assessment, despite the flagged academic performance. This could compromise academic standards and set an unrealistic expectation for the student, potentially leading to academic difficulties later. It also fails to address the underlying reasons for the lower GPA, which might require targeted support. A third incorrect approach would be to admit the student but impose overly punitive or unrelated conditions that do not address the academic concerns. This would be arbitrary and could create unnecessary barriers for the student, undermining the goal of providing a supportive educational environment. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the problem and gathering all relevant information. This includes reviewing the application, understanding the stated extenuating circumstances, and consulting institutional policies. Next, they should identify potential solutions or courses of action, considering the impact on the student, the institution, and the integrity of the admissions process. Evaluating these options against ethical principles and institutional values, such as fairness, equity, and student success, is crucial. Finally, professionals should select the best course of action, document the decision-making process, and implement the chosen solution, with a plan for follow-up and evaluation. Question 3. The performance metrics show a significant increase in applications for the upcoming academic year, and a particular applicant, who has demonstrated strong extracurricular involvement but scored just below the established threshold on the Alverno College entrance exam, is being strongly advocated for by a community leader. What is the most appropriate course of action according to Alverno College's entrance exam guidelines? Option A. Admit the applicant immediately based on the community leader's endorsement and their strong extracurricular involvement, as this demonstrates potential beyond standardized testing. Option B. Inform the applicant that they did not meet the minimum score requirement and therefore cannot be considered for admission, regardless of other factors. Option C. Suggest the applicant retake the Alverno College entrance exam without further review of their current application. As the score is the primary determinant, Option D. Conduct a comprehensive review of the applicant's entire application package, including their extracurricular achievements and any supplementary materials, to determine if they meet the holistic admission criteria as outlined in the Alverno College entrance exam guidelines. and consult with the admissions committee regarding any potential deviations from the standard score requirement. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive review of the applicant's entire application package, including their extracurricular achievements and any supplementary materials, to determine if they meet the holistic admission criteria as outlined in the Alverno College Entrance Exam Guidelines, and consult with the admissions committee regarding any potential deviations from the standard score requirement. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate needs of a student with the established academic integrity policies of Alverno College. The pressure to admit a student who may not fully meet the stated criteria, especially when influenced by external factors or personal appeals, necessitates a rigorous and principled decision-making process. Adherence to Alverno College's specific entrance exam guidelines is paramount to ensure fairness, maintain academic standards, and uphold the integrity of the admissions process. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the student's application against all stated Alverno College entrance exam requirements and guidelines, with a particular focus on understanding the rationale behind any potential exceptions or alternative pathways. This approach is right because it prioritizes adherence to the established regulatory framework of the Alverno College entrance exam. It ensures that decisions are made based on objective criteria and institutional policy, preventing arbitrary or biased admissions. This aligns with the ethical obligation to treat all applicants fairly and maintain the academic rigor of the institution. An incorrect approach would be to bypass the established review process due to a perceived urgency or personal connection. This fails to uphold the Alverno College entrance exam guidelines, which are designed to ensure a consistent and equitable evaluation of all candidates. Such an approach risks setting a precedent for future admissions that could undermine the integrity of the program. Another incorrect approach would be to make a decision based solely on the student's expressed desire to attend without a comprehensive assessment of their preparedness, as determined by the exam and its associated criteria. This disregards the established framework and could lead to admitting students who are not adequately prepared for the academic demands of Alverno College, potentially leading to higher attrition rates and a diminished educational experience for all. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and guidelines. This involves identifying the core principles and requirements of the Alverno College entrance exam. Next, they should gather all relevant information pertaining to the applicant, ensuring it is assessed objectively against these established criteria. If ambiguities or potential exceptions arise, the framework should include a process for seeking clarification or consultation with appropriate academic or admissions committees, always referencing the specific Alverno College policies. The final decision must be justifiable based on the established framework and documented thoroughly. Question 4. The audit findings indicate a significant discrepancy in the allocation of student scholarship funds over the past 2 fiscal years, suggesting a potential misstatement of financial reports that could impact donor confidence in future funding. As a member of the Alverno College Finance Committee, what is the most appropriate initial course of action? Option A. Request the auditors to revise their report to reflect a less concerning interpretation of the findings, emphasizing the positive aspects of the scholarship program. Option B. Instruct the Finance Department to adjust current allocations to compensate for past discrepancies, without further investigation or disclosure of the original issue. Option C. Immediately initiate a comprehensive internal review of the scholarship fund allocation process, documenting all findings and preparing a detailed report for the college president and board of trustees. Option D. Advise the college president to issue a public statement reassuring stakeholders that all funds are managed responsibly, without detailing the specific audit findings. Correct answer is C. Immediately initiate a comprehensive internal review of the scholarship fund allocation process, documenting all findings and preparing a detailed report for the college president and board of trustees. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for accurate financial reporting with the potential for reputational damage and the ethical obligation to disclose material information. The Alverno College entrance exam, like many academic and professional assessments, evaluates a candidate's ability to apply established principles and ethical guidelines to complex situations. The core of the challenge lies in determining the appropriate course of action when faced with information that could significantly impact stakeholders' perceptions and decisions. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective investigation of the audit findings, followed by transparent communication with relevant stakeholders, including the college's leadership and potentially external auditors or regulatory bodies if applicable. This approach aligns with principles of academic integrity and responsible governance. Specifically, it upholds the ethical duty to ensure the accuracy and reliability of information presented by the institution, which is paramount for maintaining trust and credibility. Transparency in addressing issues, even those that might be unfavorable, is a hallmark of strong ethical leadership and is often implicitly or explicitly required by institutional policies and general principles of good governance. An incorrect approach would be to downplay or ignore the audit findings. This failure stems from a disregard for the importance of accurate reporting and a potential attempt to avoid immediate discomfort or negative consequences. Ethically, this constitutes a breach of trust and a failure to act in the best interest of the institution and its stakeholders. Another incorrect approach would be to selectively disclose information, presenting only the aspects that cast the institution in a favorable light, while omitting critical details. This is a form of misrepresentation and violates the principle of full and fair disclosure. Such actions can lead to severe consequences, including loss of accreditation, damage to reputation, and erosion of public confidence. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations and adherence to established guidelines. This involves 1. Information gathering, ensuring all relevant facts are collected and understood. 2. Ethical analysis, evaluating the situation against core ethical principles and institutional values. 3. Stakeholder consideration, identifying all parties affected by the decision and their interests. 4. Regulatory compliance, confirming adherence to any applicable laws, regulations, or institutional policies. 5. Action planning, developing a course of action that is transparent, responsible, and addresses the issue effectively. Question 5. The efficiency study reveals that streamlining academic advising processes by reducing the frequency of one-on-one student meetings could significantly lower operational costs and allow for a higher student-to-advisor ratio. However, Alverno College's foundational philosophy emphasizes deep, personalized student engagement and the development of individual learning plans. Considering Alverno's commitment to its unique educational model, which of the following represents the most appropriate response to the efficiency study's findings? Option A. Conduct a pilot program to test the impact of reduced advising frequency on student engagement and academic progress, using the results to inform a revised implementation strategy that preserves personalized support. Option B. Implement the recommended changes to advising processes to achieve cost savings and increased capacity, while monitoring student satisfaction levels. Option C. Reject the efficiency study's recommendations outright, as they fundamentally contradict Alverno's student-centered approach. Option D. Delegate the decision-making process to the advising department to determine the best course of action based on their immediate operational needs. The correct answer is B. Implement the recommended changes to advising processes to achieve cost savings and increased capacity, while monitoring student satisfaction levels. Explanation. The efficiency study reveals a potential conflict between Alverno College's commitment to student-centered learning and the pressure to increase enrollment numbers, which could impact the quality of individualized support. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing institutional goals with the core educational mission. Careful judgment is needed to ensure that efficiency measures do not compromise the unique pedagogical approach Alverno is known for. The correct approach involves critically evaluating the efficiency study's recommendations through the lens of Alverno's mission and values, specifically its focus on student development and experiential learning. This means prioritizing recommendations that enhance student learning outcomes and support services, even if they are not the most immediately cost-effective. Regulatory and ethical justification stems from Alverno's accreditation standards, which emphasize program quality and student success. Adhering to these standards ensures the college maintains its educational integrity and fulfills its obligations to students and the wider academic community. An incorrect approach would be to blindly implement the efficiency study's recommendations solely based on projected cost savings or enrollment increases, without considering the impact on student learning and support. This could lead to a dilution of the student-centered model, potentially violating ethical obligations to provide a high-quality education tailored to individual student needs. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the study entirely without a thorough, mission-aligned review. This would be a failure to engage with potential improvements and could lead to missed opportunities to enhance operational effectiveness while still upholding Alverno's educational philosophy. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the core mission and values of the institution. When presented with data or proposals that could impact these core elements, the next step is to conduct a thorough analysis, considering both the potential benefits and drawbacks, particularly concerning student impact. This analysis should be guided by established ethical principles and any relevant regulatory requirements. Finally, decisions should be made that demonstrably support the mission and uphold ethical standards, even if it requires a more nuanced or less immediately obvious solution. Question 6. Governance review demonstrates that Alverno College's admissions committee is committed to a holistic review process that values diverse experiences and academic potential. A current faculty member, who is also an alumnus, has inquired about the admission status of their niece, who is applying for the upcoming academic year. The faculty member has expressed a strong desire for their niece to be admitted, highlighting her personal qualities and potential contributions to the college community. Considering Alverno's commitment to equitable and transparent admissions, what is the most ethically sound and professionally appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. The admissions committee should inform the faculty member that their niece's application will be reviewed, but should also subtly suggest that the niece's chances of admission might be enhanced if the faculty member were to make a significant financial contribution to the college. Option B. The admissions committee should decline to review the niece's application altogether, citing the potential for conflict of interest, and advise the faculty member that any further inquiries about specific applicants will not be entertained. Option C. The admissions committee should ensure the niece's application is reviewed with the same rigor and adherence to established criteria as all other applicants, with no special consideration given due to the familial relationship. And any communication regarding the application should be handled through official channels, maintaining strict confidentiality. Option D. The admissions committee should prioritize the niece's application for review, giving it special attention and potentially overlooking minor discrepancies in her application to ensure her admission, given the faculty member's strong advocacy and connection to the college. The correct answer is C. The admissions committee should ensure the niece's application is reviewed with the same rigor and adherence to established criteria as all other applicants, with no special consideration given due to the familial relationship, and any communication regarding the application should be handled through official channels, maintaining strict confidentiality. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to critically evaluate the ethical implications of a proposed action within an academic admissions context, specifically at Alverno College. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the institution's commitment to its stated values and admission policies with the potential for undue influence or perceived favoritism. Careful judgment is required to ensure that decisions are made fairly, transparently, and in alignment with Alverno's mission and ethical standards for admissions. The correct approach involves prioritizing adherence to Alverno College's established admission policies and ethical guidelines. This means ensuring that all applicants are evaluated based on the same objective criteria, and that no applicant receives preferential treatment due to personal connections. This approach is right because it upholds the principles of fairness, equity, and integrity in the admissions process, which are fundamental to maintaining the credibility and reputation of Alverno College. It directly aligns with the ethical responsibility to treat all prospective students impartially and to uphold the stated mission and values of the institution. An incorrect approach would be to advocate for a deviation from established policies to accommodate the applicant's request due to the personal relationship. This would be ethically unsound, as it introduces bias and undermines the fairness of the admissions process. It fails to uphold the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants and could lead to perceptions of favoritism, damaging the institution's reputation. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the request outright without considering the ethical implications or Alverno's specific policies. While avoiding favoritism is crucial, a complete dismissal without a thoughtful, policy-aligned response could be perceived as unhelpful or even dismissive of the applicant's situation, potentially missing an opportunity to reinforce Alverno's commitment to ethical practices in a constructive manner. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the institution's mission, values, and admission policies. When faced with a situation that could create a conflict of interest or raise ethical concerns, a professional should 1. Identify the potential ethical issue and its implications. 2. Consult relevant institutional policies and ethical guidelines. 3. Evaluate potential courses of action against these policies and guidelines, prioritizing fairness, transparency, and integrity. 4. Communicate decisions clearly and professionally, explaining the rationale based on established principles. Question 7. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a new, fee-based preparatory program for prospective Alverno College students could generate significant revenue and potentially improve the success rates of participants. However, the program's design is such that it may inadvertently favor students with greater financial resources, potentially creating an uneven playing field in the admissions process. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the ethical and educational mission of Alverno College? Option A. Reject the preparatory program outright due to the potential for financial disparity, even if it means foregoing potential revenue and opportunities to support student success. Option B. Prioritize the program's revenue-generating potential, with a commitment to offering a limited number of scholarships that do not fully offset the program's cost or reach all potentially disadvantaged students. Option C. Implement the preparatory program, focusing on maximizing revenue and assuming that any student who can afford it will benefit, thereby improving overall admissions yield. Option D. Conduct a thorough assessment of the program's impact on educational equity and student preparedness for Alverno's specific curriculum, considering alternative models that ensure accessibility for all qualified applicants, regardless of financial background. Correct answer is C. Implement the preparatory program, focusing on maximizing revenue and assuming that any student who can afford it will benefit, thereby improving overall admissions yield. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate financial benefits of a proposed program with its potential long-term ethical and educational implications for students. The Alverno College entrance exam, as a gateway to higher education, demands a commitment to student success and equitable access, which can be undermined by programs that prioritize short-term gains over genuine academic readiness. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any proposed initiative aligns with Alverno's mission and values and does not create an unfair advantage or disadvantage for prospective students. The correct approach involves a comprehensive evaluation that extends beyond immediate cost-benefit calculations to include the qualitative impact on student learning, equity, and the integrity of the admissions process. This approach is right because it aligns with the ethical principles of fairness and student welfare, which are paramount in educational institutions. Specifically, it upholds the spirit of the Alverno College mission by ensuring that admissions decisions are based on a holistic assessment of a student's potential and preparedness, rather than on their ability to afford supplementary programs. This aligns with the broader ethical considerations in higher education admissions, which emphasize transparency and equal opportunity. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the financial return of a preparatory program fails to consider the ethical implications of potentially creating a two-tiered admission system. This could lead to situations where students from more affluent backgrounds, who can afford such programs, are disproportionately admitted, thereby undermining the principle of equitable access. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes the perceived efficiency of a program without assessing its actual impact on student learning overlooks the core educational mission of Alverno College. This could result in admitting students who are not truly prepared for the rigor of college-level coursework, leading to higher attrition rates and a diminished educational experience. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the objectives and values of the institution. This involves considering the mission statement, ethical guidelines, and the needs of the student population. Next, they should gather information from multiple perspectives, including academic faculty, admissions staff, and potentially current students, to understand the potential impacts of any proposed initiative. Finally, they should weigh the potential benefits against the risks and ethical considerations, ensuring that the chosen path upholds the institution's commitment to educational excellence and equitable access for all prospective students. Question 8. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing a new, less resource-intensive student advising model could significantly reduce operational expenses for Alverno College. However, concerns have been raised about the potential impact on the quality and accessibility of personalized student support, which is a cornerstone of Alverno's educational philosophy. Considering Alverno College's commitment to student success and its accreditation standards, which of the following approaches best balances financial prudence with ethical and educational responsibilities? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive pilot program of the new advising model with a diverse group of students, gathering detailed feedback on its effectiveness, accessibility, and impact on student outcomes, while simultaneously consulting with faculty and student support staff to identify and mitigate potential risks before a full-scale rollout. Option B. Delegate the decision solely to the finance department to ensure the most financially advantageous outcome for the college. Option C. Reject the new advising model outright, citing the potential risks to student support without further investigation, to maintain the current, proven advising system. Option D. Implement the new advising model immediately to realize the projected cost savings, with a plan to address any student complaints as they arise. The correct answer is D. Implement the new advising model immediately to realize the projected cost savings, with a plan to address any student complaints as they arise. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate financial benefits of a proposed program with its potential long-term ethical and regulatory implications for Alverno College. The decision-maker must consider not only the cost savings, but also the impact on student well-being, academic integrity, and adherence to Alverno's mission and values, which are implicitly governed by educational accreditation standards and general ethical principles for higher education institutions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any decision aligns with the college's commitment to student success and responsible resource allocation. The correct approach involves prioritizing the ethical and regulatory compliance aspects over purely financial gains. This means thoroughly investigating the proposed program's potential impact on student support services, academic rigor, and the college's overall mission. It requires seeking input from relevant stakeholders, including faculty, student affairs professionals, and potentially legal counsel or compliance officers, to ensure all risks are identified and mitigated. This approach is justified by the ethical obligation of educational institutions to provide a high-quality, supportive, and compliant learning environment for their students. Adherence to accreditation standards and ethical guidelines for higher education is paramount, as failure to do so can lead to severe reputational damage and loss of accreditation, far outweighing any short-term cost savings. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement the program solely based on the projected cost savings, without adequate due diligence. This fails to consider the potential negative consequences for students, such as reduced access to essential support services or a decline in academic quality, which could violate the implicit ethical contract with students and potentially contravene accreditation standards that emphasize student success and institutional integrity. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the program outright without a thorough evaluation of its potential benefits and risks. This demonstrates a lack of analytical rigor and an unwillingness to explore innovative solutions that might genuinely improve efficiency without compromising educational quality or ethical standards. A third incorrect approach would be to focus solely on the financial aspect without consulting relevant departments or considering the student experience, leading to a decision that is financially sound but operationally and ethically flawed. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the problem and objectives. This is followed by identifying all relevant stakeholders and gathering comprehensive information, including potential benefits, costs, risks, and ethical considerations. Next, various options are generated and evaluated against established criteria, which in this case would include financial viability, ethical implications, regulatory compliance, and alignment with the college's mission. The chosen option should then be implemented with a plan for monitoring and evaluation to ensure its effectiveness and to make necessary adjustments. Question 9. The risk matrix shows a high likelihood of a moderate impact on the integrity of the Alverno College entrance exam if certain external factors are not mitigated. Considering the exam's purpose is to provide a fair and accurate assessment of applicant potential, which of the following actions best reflects a responsible approach to this information? Option A. Acknowledge the risk matrix but proceed with the exam as scheduled, assuming the impact will be manageable without further intervention. Option B. Request a postponement of the exam until all identified risks can be completely eliminated, regardless of the logistical implications. Option C. Proactively implement additional pre-approved security measures and communication protocols to address the identified high likelihood, moderate impact risks, ensuring the exam's fairness and validity. Option D. Focus on the low likelihood, low impact risks as they are less disruptive to the immediate exam administration. The correct answer is C. Proactively implement additional pre-approved security measures and communication protocols to address the identified high likelihood, moderate impact risks, ensuring the exam's fairness and validity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret a risk matrix, a tool commonly used in academic and professional settings to assess potential threats and their likelihood. The challenge lies in moving beyond a superficial understanding of the matrix to apply its implications to a real-world decision within the context of the Alverno College entrance exam framework. Careful judgment is required to determine the most appropriate course of action based on the identified risks and the established guidelines for the exam. The correct approach involves recognizing that the risk matrix, as presented within the Alverno College entrance exam context, is intended to guide decision-making towards upholding the integrity and fairness of the examination process. This approach prioritizes adherence to the exam's stated objectives and ethical standards. By focusing on the implications of the identified risks for the exam's validity and fairness, the correct approach demonstrates an understanding of the underlying principles governing academic assessments. This aligns with the Alverno College's commitment to providing a rigorous and equitable evaluation of prospective students. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the visual representation of the risk matrix without considering its purpose within the exam context fails to grasp the core of the problem. This approach might lead to a superficial or irrelevant response, neglecting the ethical and procedural implications. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes personal convenience or a quick resolution over the thorough assessment of risks and their impact on the exam's integrity would be professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of commitment to the principles of fair assessment and could undermine the credibility of the Alverno College entrance exam. A third incorrect approach that misinterprets the severity or likelihood of the risks, leading to an overreaction or underreaction, would also be flawed. This indicates a deficiency in analytical skills and an inability to apply the risk matrix effectively to the specific context of the entrance exam. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the purpose and context of the tools provided, such as a risk matrix. They should then analyze the information presented in relation to the established goals and ethical guidelines of the task at hand. This involves critical thinking to identify the most significant implications of the risks and to formulate a response that upholds the integrity and fairness of the process. Decision-making should be guided by a commitment to ethical conduct and a thorough understanding of the relevant framework. In this case, the Alverno College entrance exams guidelines. Question 10. Upon reviewing the instructions for the Alverno College entrance exam, you notice a specific guideline stating that no external reference materials are permitted. While taking the exam, you observe another applicant discreetly using a small, folded piece of paper that appears to contain notes. This situation presents a dilemma regarding your responsibility as an exam participant. Option A. Discreetly inform the proctor of your observation, providing a factual account of what you witnessed without making assumptions about the other applicant's intent. Option B. Ignore the situation, assuming it is not your responsibility to police other applicants' behavior and focusing solely on completing your own exam. Option C. Confront the other applicant directly about their actions, urging them to stop using the reference material. Option D. Make a note of the incident to discuss with the exam administrators after the test is concluded, without taking any immediate action during the exam. The correct answer is A. Discreetly inform the proctor of your observation, providing a factual account of what you witnessed without making assumptions about the other applicant's intent. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only academic preparedness, but also an understanding of ethical conduct and responsible decision-making within an educational context. The Alverno College entrance exam, by its nature, aims to assess these qualities. Careful judgment is required to navigate situations where personal biases or external pressures might conflict with established ethical guidelines or institutional values. The correct approach involves a commitment to academic integrity and a proactive, transparent communication strategy. This approach is right because it directly addresses the potential for academic dishonesty by seeking clarification and adhering to the established rules of the examination. Specifically, it aligns with the ethical principles of honesty and fairness, which are foundational to any academic institution. By seeking clarification from the proctor, the applicant demonstrates respect for the examination process and its integrity, preventing any misinterpretation or violation of the rules. This proactive step ensures that the applicant is acting in good faith and avoids any appearance of impropriety. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with the action without seeking clarification is professionally unacceptable because it demonstrates a disregard for established rules and a potential willingness to bend or break them. This could be interpreted as a lack of integrity or an attempt to gain an unfair advantage, both of which are serious ethical breaches in an academic setting. Another incorrect approach, which involves ignoring the situation and hoping it goes unnoticed, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of accountability and a failure to uphold ethical standards. It suggests an unwillingness to confront a potential issue, which can lead to more significant problems down the line and undermines the trust placed in the applicant. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the rules and guidelines governing the situation, an assessment of the potential ethical implications of different actions, and a commitment to transparency and integrity. When in doubt, seeking clarification from the appropriate authority is always the most responsible course of action. This framework prioritizes ethical conduct and ensures that decisions are made with a clear understanding of their consequences and alignment with institutional values. Question 11. Process analysis reveals that a prospective student applying to Alverno College for the upcoming academic year has submitted an entrance exam score that falls below the typical range for admitted students. However, in their personal statement and accompanying documentation, the student has detailed significant and verifiable personal challenges they faced during the period leading up to and including their exam preparation and administration. These challenges have demonstrably impacted their ability to focus and perform optimally. Considering Alverno College's commitment to a holistic and student-centered approach to education, which of the following approaches best reflects the appropriate decision-making process for the admissions committee? Option A. Solely base the admission decision on the submitted entrance exam score, as it is a standardized measure of academic readiness. Option B. Conduct a thorough review of the student's entire application, including their academic history, the details of their personal challenges, and any other relevant information, to make a holistic determination of their potential for success at Alverno College. Option C. Reject the application immediately due to the entrance exam score being below the expected threshold, without considering the extenuating circumstances. Option D. Grant automatic admission to the student based on the compelling nature of their personal circumstances, without further academic evaluation. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough review of the student's entire application, including their academic history, the details of their personal challenges, and any other relevant information, to make a holistic determination of their potential for success at Alverno College. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge common in academic settings where a student's personal circumstances may impact their academic performance. The challenge lies in balancing the college's need to maintain academic standards with its responsibility to support students facing difficulties. The Alverno College entrance exam, as a gateway to higher education, requires careful consideration of how to assess a candidate's potential while acknowledging external factors. The core tension is between objective academic assessment and empathetic holistic evaluation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review that considers the student's academic record in light of their documented personal challenges. This approach is justified by Alverno College's stated mission and values, which often emphasize a holistic and student-centered approach to education. This means looking beyond a single test score to understand the individual's potential and circumstances. It aligns with ethical principles of fairness and equity, recognizing that standardized tests may not always capture the full picture of a student's capabilities, especially when significant life events have occurred. This method allows for a more nuanced and just decision. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to solely rely on the entrance exam score, disregarding the student's explanation of extenuating circumstances. This fails to uphold the principle of holistic evaluation and can lead to an unfair exclusion of a potentially capable student. It prioritizes a narrow, quantitative measure over a qualitative understanding of the applicant. Another incorrect approach is to automatically grant admission based solely on the student's personal narrative without any further academic review. While empathy is important, this approach bypasses the fundamental requirement of assessing academic preparedness for college-level work. It risks admitting students who may not be adequately equipped to succeed, potentially leading to future academic struggles and a disservice to both the student and the institution. A third incorrect approach is to dismiss the student's application outright due to a perceived deficiency in the entrance exam score, without offering any opportunity for further discussion or alternative assessment. This demonstrates a lack of flexibility and a failure to engage with the applicant's situation, contradicting a supportive and student-focused institutional ethos. Professional reasoning. Professionals in admissions should employ a framework that begins with understanding the institution's mission and values. This is followed by a thorough review of all provided information, including academic records, personal statements, and any supporting documentation. When extenuating circumstances are presented, the next step is to assess how these circumstances might have impacted the applicant's performance. The decision-making process should then involve considering alternative assessment methods or seeking further information to gain a complete picture. The ultimate goal is to make a fair and informed decision that aligns with both academic standards and the institution's commitment to its students. Question 12. Strategic planning requires Alverno College's admissions committee to consider an applicant's request for program placement based on a recently diagnosed learning difference. The applicant has provided documentation of the diagnosis and expressed concerns about their ability to meet the demands of the standard curriculum without specific support. The committee must decide how to proceed with evaluating this applicant's preparedness for admission. Option A. Defer the decision until the applicant can demonstrate mastery of the standard curriculum through external tutoring, without offering any college-based support or assessment during the interim. Option B. Grant the applicant provisional acceptance into the program, contingent on their successful completion of a remedial course, without a full assessment of their current academic capabilities. Option C. Prioritize the applicant's expressed desire for the program and their stated concerns, offering immediate placement with a modified curriculum that significantly reduces academic expectations. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive review of the applicant's academic history, considering the documented learning difference and exploring potential accommodations that align with Alverno College's student support services and academic policies to determine their readiness for the program. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive review of the applicant's academic history, considering the documented learning difference and exploring potential accommodations that align with Alverno College's student support services and academic policies to determine their readiness for the program. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate needs of a student with the long-term integrity of the Alverno College admissions process and its adherence to established academic standards. The admissions committee must exercise careful judgment to ensure that any accommodations or considerations are fair, equitable, and do not compromise the college's commitment to academic rigor. The core of the challenge lies in distinguishing between legitimate support for a student's learning differences and undue influence that could distort the assessment of their preparedness for college-level work. The correct approach involves a thorough, individualized assessment of the applicant's academic record and potential, considering documented learning differences, and exploring appropriate accommodations that align with Alverno College's established policies for supporting students with disabilities. This approach is professionally sound because it prioritizes fairness and equity. It acknowledges the applicant's unique circumstances while upholding the college's commitment to admitting students who can succeed in its academic programs. This aligns with the ethical principle of providing equal opportunity while maintaining academic standards. Alverno College's mission, which emphasizes student success and personalized learning, would support a process that seeks to understand and accommodate genuine needs without lowering academic expectations. The focus is on identifying how the student can thrive within the college's framework, not on circumventing it. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the applicant's expressed desire for a specific program, without a comprehensive evaluation of their academic readiness, fails to uphold professional responsibility. This could lead to admitting a student who is not adequately prepared, potentially setting them up for academic difficulty and undermining the college's reputation. It also risks creating an unfair advantage over other applicants who meet the standard admission criteria without special consideration. Another incorrect approach that involves making assumptions about the applicant's capabilities based on their learning difference, without seeking further information or documentation, is also professionally unacceptable. This can lead to either underestimating or overestimating their potential, resulting in an inappropriate admission decision. It bypasses the due diligence required to make an informed and equitable judgment. Finally, an approach that prioritizes expediency over thoroughness. By rushing the decision-making process without adequate review of supporting documentation or consultation with relevant college resources, is a significant ethical and professional failure. This haste can lead to overlooking critical information, resulting in an unfair or inaccurate admission decision that does not serve the best interests of the student or the college. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of institutional mission and policies. This framework should include a systematic review of all applicant materials, a commitment to individualized assessment, and a willingness to consult with relevant experts or departments, e.g., disability services, when necessary. Transparency, fairness, and a focus on the applicant's potential for success within the institution's established parameters are paramount. Question 13. Examination of the data shows that a candidate for the Alverno College entrance exam has requested a specific type of accommodation during the test, citing personal circumstances. The request is not explicitly covered by the general guidelines provided to all test takers, but the candidate expresses significant distress about proceeding without it. The individual responsible for managing the exam administration must decide how to proceed. Option A. Inform the candidate that their request cannot be accommodated as it is not explicitly listed in the general guidelines and proceed with the standard exam administration. Option B. Propose a unique ad hoc accommodation tailored to the candidate's specific situation, even if it deviates from established procedures. Option C. Grant the requested accommodation immediately to alleviate the candidate's distress and ensure their comfort during the exam. Option D. Consult the official Alverno College Entrance Exam Policy Manual for documented procedures on candidate accommodations and follow those guidelines precisely. Correct answer is D. Consult the official Alverno College Entrance Exam Policy Manual for documented procedures on candidate accommodations and follow those guidelines precisely. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate a situation where personal beliefs might conflict with the established ethical and regulatory standards of a professional examination. The Alverno College entrance exam, like many professional assessments, aims to evaluate a candidate's readiness based on objective criteria and adherence to established protocols. The challenge lies in upholding the integrity of the examination process while also considering the candidate's personal circumstances, without compromising the fairness and validity of the assessment for all participants. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any accommodations or decisions made are both equitable and compliant with the exam's governing principles. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the Alverno College entrance exam's specific policies and guidelines regarding accommodations for candidates with documented needs. This approach is right because it prioritizes adherence to the established regulatory framework of the exam. By consulting the official documentation, the individual ensures that any decision made is based on predefined, objective criteria designed to maintain fairness and consistency for all test takers. This aligns with the ethical obligation to uphold the integrity of the examination process and to treat all candidates equitably according to the rules set forth by Alverno College for its entrance exam. An incorrect approach would be to grant an accommodation based solely on a verbal request, without verifying it against the exam's official policy. This fails to adhere to the established regulatory framework, potentially creating an unfair advantage or disadvantage for the candidate and undermining the validity of the exam results. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the candidate's request outright without exploring the possibility of legitimate accommodations as outlined in the exam's guidelines. This could be seen as a failure to act ethically and in accordance with the spirit of inclusivity that many educational institutions strive for, provided such accommodations are within the exam's defined parameters. Finally, attempting to create a novel accommodation not covered by the exam's policies, even with good intentions, introduces subjectivity and can compromise the standardization and comparability of test results, violating the principle of consistent application of rules. The professional decision-making process in such situations should begin with a clear understanding of the governing rules and regulations. This involves actively seeking out and thoroughly understanding the specific policies of the Alverno College entrance exam related to candidate accommodations. If the situation is ambiguous or falls outside clearly defined policies, the next step should be to consult with the appropriate authority or committee responsible for overseeing the exam to seek clarification and guidance. This ensures that decisions are made in a consistent, fair, and compliant manner, protecting the integrity of the assessment and upholding professional standards. Question 14. Assessment of how an applicant should best address a specific academic challenge encountered in a prerequisite course during their undergraduate studies when completing the Alverno College entrance exam application. The applicant received a grade lower than expected in this course, which is relevant to their intended field of study at Alverno. Option A. Omit any mention of the challenging course from the application, focusing only on academic achievements. Option B. Briefly mention the course but significantly downplay the difficulty and inflate the applicant's effort and understanding to present a more favorable impression. Option C. Attribute the lower grade solely to external factors beyond the applicant's control without discussing personal learning or strategies for improvement. Option D. Detail the specific course, the grade received, and the proactive steps taken to understand the material better and improve subsequent academic performance, demonstrating a commitment to learning from the experience. Correct answer is D. Detail the specific course, the grade received, and the proactive steps taken to understand the material better and improve subsequent academic performance, demonstrating a commitment to learning from the experience. Explanation. The scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in academic settings, requiring an applicant to demonstrate integrity and honesty during the admissions process. The challenge lies in balancing the desire to present oneself favorably with the absolute requirement of truthfulness. Alverno College, like many institutions, emphasizes a commitment to ethical conduct and academic integrity as foundational values. Therefore, the applicant's response must reflect an understanding of these principles and their application in a real-world context. The correct approach involves acknowledging the academic challenge faced and explaining the strategies employed to overcome it, demonstrating resilience and a proactive learning attitude. This aligns with Alverno College's likely emphasis on self-reflection, personal growth, and the ability to learn from experiences, even difficult ones. Specifically, this approach showcases a commitment to honesty by not fabricating information and a dedication to academic improvement by detailing efforts made. This reflects the ethical imperative to be truthful in all interactions and the professional expectation of accountability for one's academic performance. An incorrect approach that involves omitting the challenging course entirely fails to be transparent and may be perceived as an attempt to conceal a weakness, undermining the applicant's credibility. This violates the ethical principle of honesty and the expectation of full disclosure in an application process. Another incorrect approach, which involves exaggerating the applicant's performance or the difficulty of the course, constitutes misrepresentation. This is ethically unsound and demonstrates a lack of integrity, which is a critical failing in any academic or professional context. Finally, an approach that focuses solely on external factors without taking personal responsibility for the outcome demonstrates a lack of self-awareness and accountability, which are essential qualities for success in higher education and beyond. This approach fails to showcase the applicant's ability to learn and grow from challenges. Professionals in academic admissions and beyond should employ a decision-making process that prioritizes honesty, transparency, and accountability. This involves a thorough self-assessment of one's experiences, an honest evaluation of strengths and weaknesses, and a clear articulation of how challenges have been addressed and learned from. The focus should always be on presenting an authentic and truthful representation of oneself, supported by evidence of growth and learning. Question 15. Which approach would be most appropriate for a prospective student preparing for the Alverno College entrance exam, considering the college's emphasis on academic integrity and ethical conduct? Option A. Actively search for and utilize online forums and unofficial study guides that claim to offer insider information or direct answers to the Alverno College entrance exam. Option B. Thoroughly study the official Alverno College entrance exam study materials and practice questions, ensuring all work is completed independently and without consulting unauthorized sources. Option C. Seek assistance from current Alverno College students or faculty to obtain advanced knowledge or specific insights into the exam content beyond what is publicly provided. Option D. Focus on memorizing common question formats and potential answers from various unofficial test preparation websites, assuming this will be sufficient to pass the exam. Correct answer is B. Thoroughly study the official Alverno College entrance exam study materials and practice questions, ensuring all work is completed independently and without consulting unauthorized sources. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an aspiring student at Alverno College, requiring them to navigate the ethical considerations of academic integrity and the responsible use of information. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire to perform well on an entrance exam with the obligation to adhere to the exam's specific guidelines and the principles of academic honesty. Alverno College, like many institutions, emphasizes a commitment to ethical conduct and intellectual integrity, which are foundational to its educational mission. Therefore, any approach that deviates from these principles, even if seemingly beneficial in the short term, would be professionally unacceptable. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and strict adherence to the Alverno College entrance exam stated rules and guidelines. This means engaging with the material independently, utilizing only permitted resources, and refraining from any form of academic dishonesty. This approach is correct because it directly aligns with the ethical framework expected of all students at Alverno College, which prioritizes honesty, integrity, and fair play. The Alverno College entrance exam, by its nature, is designed to assess a student's existing knowledge and critical thinking skills without external assistance. Relying on unauthorized aids or information would not only violate the exam's specific regulations, but also undermine the purpose of the assessment and the college's commitment to academic rigor. An incorrect approach would be to seek out and utilize unauthorized study guides or online forums that claim to provide answers or shortcuts for the Alverno College entrance exam. This is professionally unacceptable because it constitutes academic dishonesty, a direct violation of the principles of integrity and fairness. Such actions would not only disqualify the applicant from admission, but also demonstrate a lack of ethical judgment, which is a critical attribute for success in higher education and beyond. Another incorrect approach would be to misrepresent one's qualifications or prior learning to gain an advantage. This is ethically unsound as it involves deception and undermines the trust inherent in the admissions process. Furthermore, attempting to bypass the exam's intended assessment by focusing solely on memorizing specific question types without genuine understanding would also be an incorrect approach, as it fails to demonstrate the critical thinking and analytical skills Alverno College seeks to cultivate. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a clear understanding of the governing rules and ethical principles. Before engaging in any task, especially one with high stakes like a college entrance exam, an individual should: 1. Identify the specific rules and guidelines applicable to the situation. 2. Evaluate potential actions against these rules and established ethical standards. 3. Prioritize honesty, integrity, and fairness in all decisions. 4. Seek clarification if any aspect of the rules or ethical expectations is unclear. 5. Choose the course of action that upholds these principles, even if it presents a greater challenge. Question 16. Implementation of a revised admissions policy at Alverno College requires the admissions committee to evaluate applicants who present with entrance exam scores that fall below the typical range for successful matriculation. One applicant in particular has a score that raises concerns, but their personal essay and letters of recommendation highlights significant life experiences and a strong desire to pursue their chosen field of study. The committee must decide how to proceed with this applicant's evaluation. Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire application, including their essay, recommendations, and any provided context for their exam performance, to determine their overall potential for success at Alverno College. Option B. Offer the applicant conditional admission with a requirement to retake the entrance exam before the start of the academic year, without further review of other application components. Option C. Immediately deny the applicant's admission due to the entrance exam score being below the expected threshold, as this indicates a lack of preparedness. Option D. Proceed with admitting the applicant without any further consideration of the entrance exam score, assuming their other application materials are sufficient. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire application, including their essay, recommendations, and any provided context for their exam performance, to determine their overall potential for success at Alverno College. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate needs of a student with the established academic integrity policies of Alverno College. The admissions committee must uphold the integrity of the entrance process while also demonstrating empathy and a commitment to supporting diverse student backgrounds. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness and adherence to Alverno's mission without compromising the rigor of the admission standards. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the student's application, considering the context of their educational background and any extenuating circumstances that may have impacted their performance. This approach aligns with Alverno College's known commitment to a holistic review process, which values individual potential and diverse experiences. It also reflects ethical considerations of fairness and equity in admissions, ensuring that students are evaluated based on a comprehensive understanding of their capabilities, rather than solely on standardized metrics that might not capture their full academic promise. This method prioritizes understanding the student's narrative and potential contributions to the college community. An approach that immediately denies admission based solely on a lower-than-expected score, without further inquiry, fails to acknowledge the potential for external factors to influence performance. This is an ethical failure, as it can lead to the exclusion of promising candidates who might thrive at Alverno. It also disregards the college's stated commitment to a holistic review, which is a core principle of its admissions philosophy. Another incorrect approach, which is to offer immediate admission without any further review or consideration of the score, undermines the purpose of the entrance exam. This would be a failure to uphold academic standards and could set a precedent for inconsistent admissions practices. It also fails to address the underlying reasons for the score, potentially missing opportunities to offer targeted support if the student is admitted. A third incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the score entirely and proceed as if no exam was taken, is also professionally unsound. While Alverno emphasizes a holistic review, the entrance exam is a component of that review. Ignoring it completely would be a deviation from established procedures and could lead to questions about the validity of the admissions process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves 1. Understanding the established policies and procedures for admissions and entrance exams. 2. Recognizing the importance of a holistic review that considers multiple facets of an applicant's profile. 3. Investigating any discrepancies or areas of concern by seeking additional information or context. 4. Applying ethical principles of fairness, equity, and transparency. 5. Making a decision that is consistent with the institution's mission and values while upholding academic integrity. Question 17. The control framework reveals a student has submitted an assignment late, citing personal family emergencies. The instructor is aware of the student's generally strong academic record, but is also concerned about maintaining consistent grading standards for all students. The instructor needs to decide how to proceed. Option A. Immediately assign a failing grade for the late submission, citing the established deadline as non-negotiable. Option B. Refer the student to the dean's office for disciplinary action without attempting to understand the circumstances. Option C. Schedule a meeting with the student to discuss the situation, explore available academic support services, and collaboratively determine a fair and appropriate resolution that upholds academic integrity. Option D. Grant an automatic extension without further discussion, assuming the student's explanation is sufficient. The correct answer is C. Schedule a meeting with the student to discuss the situation, explore available academic support services, and collaboratively determine a fair and appropriate resolution that upholds academic integrity. Explanation. The control framework reveals a potential conflict between academic integrity and student support services. The scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need to uphold the Alverno College's academic standards with the ethical obligation to assist students facing personal difficulties that may impact their academic performance. A hasty or overly punitive response could alienate students and undermine the college's mission of holistic development, while an overly lenient approach could compromise the integrity of the assessment process. Careful judgment is required to identify a solution that is both fair to the student and consistent with college policy. The correct approach involves a multifaceted strategy that prioritizes open communication and support while maintaining academic standards. This approach involves meeting with the student to understand the underlying issues, exploring available academic accommodations or support services, and clearly communicating the expectations for academic integrity. This aligns with Alverno College's commitment to student success and its emphasis on developing individuals who can navigate complex situations ethically and responsibly. The ethical justification lies in providing a supportive environment that fosters student growth and learning, rather than simply enforcing rules. An approach that immediately assumes academic dishonesty and proceeds with disciplinary action without investigation fails to uphold the principle of due process and ignores the potential for extenuating circumstances. This is an ethical failure, as it lacks empathy and a commitment to understanding the student's situation. An approach that dismisses the student's concerns and insists on the original deadline without offering any flexibility or support overlooks the college's responsibility to provide a conducive learning environment. This is a failure to meet the ethical obligation of student support and can be detrimental to student well-being and academic progress. An approach that offers a blanket extension without understanding the student's specific needs or the nature of the assignment risks setting a precedent that could undermine academic rigor. While well-intentioned, it lacks the targeted support and clear communication necessary for a balanced resolution. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Active listening to understand the student's situation. 2. Consulting relevant college policies and procedures regarding academic integrity and student support. 3. Exploring available resources and accommodations. 4. Engaging in open and honest communication with the student about expectations and potential outcomes. 5. Documenting all interactions and decisions. Question 18. During the evaluation of an applicant for Alverno College's highly competitive nursing program, an admissions counselor reviews the applicant's submitted transcript and notes that a required introductory biology course appears to be missing. The applicant, however, expresses significant passion for nursing and a strong desire to attend Alverno. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions counselor? Option A. Immediately inform the applicant that they do not meet the minimum requirements for the nursing program due to the missing prerequisite and cannot be considered. Option B. Thoroughly review the applicant's entire application file to confirm if the prerequisite has been met or if any acceptable alternative has been documented, and then communicate the findings and next steps to the applicant. Option C. Admit the applicant into the nursing program based on their expressed passion and potential, assuming they will catch up on any missed prerequisites during their first semester. Option D. Advise the applicant to apply to a different, less competitive program at Alverno College to ensure their admission, rather than risking rejection from the nursing program. The correct answer is B. Thoroughly review the applicant's entire application file to confirm if the prerequisite has been met or if any acceptable alternative has been documented, and then communicate the findings and next steps to the applicant. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the applicant's stated desire for a specific academic program with the college's established admissions criteria and the ethical obligation to provide accurate information. Misrepresenting an applicant's qualifications or the program's requirements would be a disservice to both the applicant and the institution. The admissions counselor must navigate potential pressure to admit a student while upholding the integrity of the Alverno College admissions process. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's submitted materials against the stated prerequisites for the nursing program. This aligns with Alverno College's commitment to fair and equitable admissions, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated based on the same objective standards. This approach upholds the ethical principle of honesty and transparency in the admissions process, preventing the admission of students who may not be adequately prepared for the rigor of the nursing curriculum, thereby protecting the reputation of the program and the success of future graduates. It also adheres to the implicit regulatory framework of educational institutions to maintain academic standards. Incorrect approaches analysis, admitting the applicant without verifying prerequisite completion, despite the applicant's stated enthusiasm, fails to adhere to Alverno College's established admission standards. This approach risks admitting a student who is not academically prepared, potentially leading to academic difficulties and a higher likelihood of program attrition. It also undermines the fairness of the process for other applicants who have met all requirements, suggesting the applicant enroll in a different, less competitive program to gain admission to the college, without first exploring all avenues for the desired nursing program, is ethically questionable. This approach prioritizes filling a spot over genuinely assisting the applicant in pursuing their stated academic goal. It may also be perceived as a way to circumvent the established admissions process for the nursing program, directly informing the applicant that they cannot be considered for the nursing program without first thoroughly reviewing their application and confirming the absence of prerequisites is premature and potentially dismissive. While honesty is crucial, a complete evaluation should precede a definitive rejection, ensuring all possibilities have been explored and that the decision is based on concrete evidence. Professional reasoning. Professionals in admissions should employ a systematic decision-making process. First, clearly understand the stated requirements and policies of the institution. Second, gather all relevant information pertaining to the specific case, in this instance, the applicant's academic record and stated qualifications. Third, objectively evaluate this information against the established criteria. Fourth, communicate the findings and decisions clearly and ethically to the applicant, offering guidance and alternative solutions where appropriate and within policy. This process ensures fairness, integrity, and adherence to institutional standards. Question 19. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of unusual activity associated with a student's online learning platform engagement, specifically noting prolonged periods of inactivity followed by rapid bursts of activity during assessment periods. This raises a concern about potential academic misconduct. Which of the following represents the most appropriate initial course of action? Option A. Review the student's academic record for any prior instances of academic concern and consult with the student's assigned academic advisor to discuss the observed pattern and determine the best course of action. Option B. Disregard the alert, assuming the monitoring system is prone to false positives and does not warrant further attention. Option C. Immediately flag the student for academic dishonesty and initiate disciplinary proceedings. Option D. Directly confront the student with the observed activity and demand an explanation for their behavior. The correct answer is C. Immediately flag the student for academic dishonesty and initiate disciplinary proceedings. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret complex information from a monitoring system and make a decision that has potential implications for student well-being and academic integrity. The challenge lies in discerning the true nature of the observed behavior from the data, avoiding premature judgment, and ensuring that any action taken is both fair and aligned with Alverno College's established policies and ethical guidelines for student support and academic conduct. The pressure to act quickly must be balanced with the need for thorough investigation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a multi-step process that prioritizes gathering more information and seeking guidance before making a definitive judgment or taking punitive action. This approach is right because it aligns with principles of due process and student support inherent in educational institutions. Specifically, it reflects the Alverno College ethos of holistic student development and a commitment to understanding individual circumstances. By first reviewing the specific context of the observed behavior within the student's academic record, and then consulting with the appropriate academic advisor or student support services, the individual demonstrates a commitment to a fair and supportive resolution. This process ensures that any intervention is informed, proportionate, and aimed at addressing underlying issues rather than simply penalizing perceived infractions. This aligns with the ethical obligation to treat students with respect and to provide opportunities for growth and improvement. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that immediately flags the student for academic dishonesty without further investigation, fails to consider potential mitigating factors or alternative explanations for the observed behavior. This is an ethical failure as it presumes guilt and bypasses the necessary steps for a fair assessment, potentially damaging the student's academic standing and trust. It also violates the principle of providing students with an opportunity to explain their actions. An approach that involves directly confronting the student with an accusation of cheating before gathering all relevant information is also professionally unacceptable. This can create an adversarial environment, put the student on the defensive, and make it more difficult to obtain an accurate understanding of the situation. It is an ethical misstep because it lacks the necessary preliminary investigation and could lead to an unfair accusation. An approach that involves ignoring the monitoring system's alert due to a belief that it is overly sensitive or prone to false positives, without any attempt to verify or understand the alert, is also problematic. While skepticism of technology is sometimes warranted, outright dismissal without any due diligence is a failure to uphold professional responsibility. It could mean overlooking a genuine issue that requires support or intervention, thus failing in the duty of care towards the student. Professional reasoning. Professionals in an educational setting should adopt a problem-solving framework that emphasizes information gathering, contextual understanding, and consultation. When faced with data from a monitoring system, the first step should always be to understand the specific nature of the alert and its context. This involves reviewing the student's academic history and any relevant institutional policies. The next crucial step is to seek input from designated support personnel, such as academic advisors or student services, who are trained to handle such situations and can offer guidance on appropriate next steps. This collaborative approach ensures that decisions are made with a comprehensive understanding of the student's situation and in adherence to institutional values and procedures, prioritizing support and fairness. Question 20. Performance analysis shows a slight dip in a prospective student's scores on a specific section of the Alverno College entrance exam compared to their overall application profile, which otherwise indicates strong potential and relevant experience. The admissions committee is tasked with making a recommendation regarding this applicant's admission. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Recommend a comprehensive review of the student's entire application file, including any provided context or supplementary information, to understand the performance dip within the broader applicant profile. Option B. Immediately recommend denial of admission based on the performance analysis data, as it suggests a potential lack of preparedness for the rigor of the program. Option C. Recommend conditional admission with a requirement for the student to complete a remedial course before the start of the academic year, without further investigation into the performance dip. Option D. Recommend a re-administration of the specific exam section to the student, assuming the initial performance was due to a temporary lapse. The correct answer is A. Recommend a comprehensive review of the student's entire application file, including any provided context or supplementary information, to understand the performance dip within the broader applicant profile. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate a situation where a student's academic performance may be influenced by factors outside of their direct control, and where institutional policies must be applied fairly and ethically. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the need for objective academic assessment with the responsibility to support student success and uphold the integrity of the Alverno College entrance exam. Careful judgment is required to avoid making assumptions about a student's capabilities based on limited data, and to ensure that any decisions made are consistent with Alverno College's commitment to holistic evaluation and student development. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the student's complete application file, including any supplementary materials or explanations provided by the student or their recommenders. This approach is correct because it aligns with Alverno College's known emphasis on a holistic admissions process, which values diverse experiences and potential beyond standardized test scores. It allows for a comprehensive understanding of the applicant, considering factors that might have impacted their performance on a specific assessment. This aligns with ethical principles of fairness and equity in admissions, ensuring that all relevant information is considered before a final decision is made. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on the performance analysis data and immediately recommend denial of admission based on a single metric. This is ethically flawed because it fails to acknowledge the multifaceted nature of student potential and may unfairly penalize a student for circumstances beyond their control, such as test anxiety, a bad day, or external stressors that are not reflected in the raw performance data. It also disregards Alverno's stated commitment to a holistic review. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately offer a conditional acceptance without further investigation. While seemingly supportive, this bypasses the necessary due diligence of understanding the root cause of the performance dip. It could lead to placing a student in a program where they are not adequately prepared, ultimately hindering their success and potentially leading to a negative experience for both the student and the institution. This approach lacks the rigorous evaluation expected in an admissions process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured multi-step approach. 1. Acknowledge and gather all available data, including performance metrics and qualitative information. 2. Identify potential contributing factors to any observed discrepancies or underperformance. 3. Consult relevant institutional policies and guidelines for admissions and student support. 4. Engage in a comprehensive review that considers the applicant's entire profile. 5. Make a decision based on a balanced assessment of academic potential, personal qualities, and alignment with the college's mission. 6. If necessary, explore options for support or further assessment that are fair and beneficial to the student's long-term success.